Hey there, I'm your host Zoe, and this is part 5 of our menu series. In today's video, we will be continuing with the settings and creating the settings menu UI. So with that said, let's begin. Let's go ahead and open up the content drawer, open up the menu system folder, and we want to open up the settings menu UI. Now inside here, we want to add 2 borders. So border 1, and then on top of this, we'll add another one. Click on your first. Let's rename it to border_color, and we'll go to the image, get our background, menu background, and that's fine. Click on your second border, rename it to background or blur, whatever you like. Brush color will set all the way to black. And then for the image, we'll type in menu UI, like so, and we get this cool looking effect. Now for the padding, also set to 0, so it's all the way on the screen. Next, on top of this, I want to add an overlay, and this will allow us to overlay things on top. Padding, again, 0, and then we can add a blur, background blur to our overlay. Fill this out, and blur strength, I like 1, but of course, play around with this. And that's looking nice. Okay. So next, I'll go ahead and add a size box to our overlay. We'll place this in the center. Let's override the width and the height. We'll do 1260 by 600. And let's just call it box_settings. Okay, next then we can add a text to our overlay. And this is the title. So center from the top, we will do 25, size 124. Name will do txt_menu title, and for the text itself we'll do settings menu, and there we have it. Okay, next let's go ahead and add another size box to our overlay, and we want to call this box_apply changes, and we'll make it variable. So inside here, I want to maybe from the top, I'll make 150 on the center of the screen, and the width and height override will do 800 by 120. And I'm happy with this. Next, we'll go ahead and add a border to this, like so. And for the color, I have one saved here, so I'll copy paste this to our brush. Feel free to take it if you want. And then with that, we'll add a horizontal box like this, padding 0. And we want 2 buttons in here, which will be our menu button 1, copy paste that, and 2. Select both, fill them, padding we can do 10. On the left one, I want to type button_don't apply. And we'll just say don't apply. And here we will do apply or save changes. Save changes. And we want to do button_save changes. And if it does not fit, what we can do is, let's just reduce this a little bit, 44, maybe 40 even. Go here and do 40 as well. And there we have it. Now click on this box. By default, I want this to, where's this box? Apply changes. I want this to be collapsed, so it's not in the UI. It only shows up if we haven't saved our changes, our settings, and we're trying to leave. So we'll do collapsed. Next, let's go ahead and add 3 more size boxes. So we'll do size box, drag this into our overlay. And inside, what I want to do is I want to center align that anyways. And the padding from the top, I'll do 400. And we'll override the width, and I'll set this to 40. And the height, I'll set this to 100. And with that done, I'll get my menu button, put it inside. And for the box, we can call it box_back button. And click on your button, do button_back. And we want to then copy paste that 2 more times into our overlay and change this box to be save button. And then click inside button save. Change this to save. And we want to then click on the box itself and do right align. And from the right, we can do something like 200 perhaps, 300, 400. Looks nice. So with our other button, let's click on it and do reset button. Click on the button itself, then do reset and button reset. And then left align and oops, never mind. Click on your box, left align that, and padding from the left will do 400. And that's looking good. Click on your then box settings, and in here we can search for our settings widget and drag it in. And there we have it. Let's then compile and save that. Next, let's go into the event graph, and in here we'll begin by creating a new function called setButton. Inside, I want to add 2 inputs. The first one will be an array, which will be of type wb_setting_button. Change this to be an array, and our other input will be a single, and we want this to be an integer. Let's call it quality. So for example, texture quality, shadow quality, that kind of stuff. From the array, we'll do for each loop. So for every single one, and we want to check if this index is equal to this index. Double click to reroute, and then we'll do branch. And from here, we want to drag our array element and do set is active be true, like so. Reroute this, double click, press shift click this and press Q to align them. And then we want to grab our settings widget and do load active button. So we don't have this function created. So for that, let's compile and save this first. Let's go back into the content drawer, menu system, open up our settings, go to the graph, and let's create a new function called load active button. So in here, again, we'll do new variable array, which will be of type wb_setting button array. We'll do a for each loop, and we'll do get is active, and then do change button status. The body goes in there, and this goes in here. And that's all we got to do. So let's compile and save this. So back inside of our settings menu UI, we then want to drag out from here and do load active button. We have access to this function now. Do that, and the array will drag from here. So let's do get array. Scroll all the way down, and there we go. Plug this in, and let's compile and save. For our next function, we want to call this set shadow quality button. So click this, create a new input, call this shadow quality. And we want to promote this to a variable. We actually have this here. So let's do set like this. And then we can get our settings, get our shadow quality buttons, and we can do set button like so. plug that in there and the index goes in there. And let's compile and save that. Next, we will create a function called load setting buttons. In here then, we want to do a get game user settings. We want to get our shadow quality, get our texture quality. We'll grab a sequence. And for the start, we want to do set shadow quality button. So we will need to create another function that's exactly similar, but for our texture. So an easy way of doing that is let's go in here to duplicate, call it set texture quality button. Open this up and change the shadow quality in here to be texture quality. Grab your texture buttons like so. This goes there, this goes there, and we want to set the texture quality variable as well. Like so. And let's compile and save. And here then we want to grab this function and set our textures. Next, inside of the event graph, let's grab our event construct. So let's delete preconstruct and event tick. In here, we want to grab our border, which we don't have. So go to your designer, click on the border underscore color, make it variable. And let's go back. Now that it's variable, we can get it and do set brush color. And the color we want to do a select, and the condition is going to be is game paused. So if the game is paused, we want this to be transparent, so 0, and otherwise we want it to be white. After that, we want to give our settings, that variable we made in the previous episode, a value. So we'll do set settings menu UI, and this here will come from self. So a self reference of this widget right here. And at the end, we want to go ahead and grab our load settings buttons like so. Next, let's go ahead and create a new function called apply changes. And in here, we want to create a input called the condition, which will be of type Boolean. Grab a branch. And if it's true, we will return settings saved to be true. And if it's false, we want to grab our box underscore apply changes and do set visibility be visible like so. And we then will return this as false. And let's compile and save. Back inside of the event graph, we can go ahead and create the back button now. So let's click on the button underscore back on button clicked. In here, we want to grab our apply changes, and the variable is settings saved. So get that, grab a branch. If it's false, we're not doing anything. On true, we want to remove from parent. So this widget here. And we also want to create a new custom event, which we will use in a moment, called toPrevious, and plug this in here. Next, we'll grab another branch and do is game paused. If it's true, we then want to create widget, which will be our pause menu. And then this will be our main menu. If that's not the case, and we just want to add to viewport on both of these. Oops. And there we go. Next, let's go ahead and create the save button. So button underscore save on clicked. And if we save, we want to get game user settings. We want to do apply settings. No, is it apply settings? Yep. And we then want to tick this off. I don't want to check for any command lines. And we then want to also save these settings. Like so. I will reroute this just so it looks more visible to read. And at the very end, I want to grab this variable and do true, set it to true. Next, let's go ahead and do the reset button. So click on button_reset on clicked. In here, we want to grab our settings reference and do default shadow quality, default texture quality. We could even do this on a sequence if we wanted to. And let's reroute that. And we need one more thing called on reset, which I don't have. So we need to open up our settings again. So content drawer settings, go to the event graph, and we need to create a new function called on reset. Inside here, all we want to do is let's go to the event graph on the dropdown and grab on shadow quality changed. On shadow quality changed. There we go. And we want on texture quality changed as well. And this value will be the default value. So I had it at high, so I'll do 3 and 3. And let's compile and save that. Back inside of our settings menu UI, we then can drag out and do on reset. And let's connect the execution pin and reroute again, like so. Our next button then will be apply changes. So button save changes on clicked. And we want to again do get game user settings. We want to save the settings. And then we'll do is settings saved, set this to be true. And at the very end, we want to go to previous, so that event there. So we can search for it right here, the previous, drag it, and connect it. And one more thing is that whenever we press our input to exit this, so IA_pause game, let's just remove from parent. So unstarted, remove from parent. So it will remove this widget from the screen. And then let's compile and save. One more thing before we can start using this is let's go to our content drawer and we need to add this button to our main menu and our pause menu. So let's go to the main menu, open up the graph, and in here we have button credits. So click on button settings on clicked, and we pretty much can copy all this. Let's just change the widget to settings menu UI. Copy all that, compile and save. Let's open up the pause menu now and do exactly the same thing. We can even probably paste it in if the names are the same, compile and save. So while testing this, I noticed that the settings themselves work, but the buttons are a little bit broken. So we need to go ahead and update that. While editing, I noticed I made a small mistake. So we have a is settings saved variable in our WB_settings widget. Now we don't want this to be here, so click on it and delete that, compile and save. Now let's go to our settings menu UI widget, which is in our menu folder here. And inside we want the variable is settings saved. And you want this to be ticked true because once we go into our settings and we don't change anything around, we want it by default to be all saved so we can exit without any hassle. Next, we want to open up our button settings. So settings button, and this should be inverted. So this green, copy that, paste it into A, like so. And then B, we can set to be white. And let's compile and save and see what is changed. Hit play and shadows are off currently. Settings. There we go. That's a little bit better. But our texture quality is not working, so let's see why that is. So the reason my texture quality buttons are not working is that I left the shadow quality button variable in here instead of the texture. So let's grab texture quality buttons and plug this into the array here and here. And that should fix everything. So again, compile and save, and we test again, hit play, settings, and there we go. It works. So we can save that. go back. Now we need to also make the apply buttons go on the screen. Back inside of our settings menu UI, let's go ahead and create a new function, and we will call this set shadow quality setting. And in here, we want to do get game user settings. We want to set the shadow quality to be whatever the quality in our shadow quality is, like so. We would then will do apply settings. Again, pick this false if you don't want the command overrides. And we then want to set the button, and the array will come from here. Get your shadow quality buttons. And the quality itself will come again from this variable here. And let's compile and save that. And inside of the event graph, we then want to click on don't apply, on clicked. And when we don't apply, we want to grab a sequence. And on the very end, we want to set its settings to be true. And then go to previous. So we can just steal that. And on 0, we will do set shadow quality setting. Now we also want to do the same for our texture. So let's again right click and duplicate this to set texture quality setting. And we'll do the opposite. So set texture quality. We get this from here. Copy paste goes in there. And also let's not forget the buttons to be texture buttons. And just like that, we have our second function, compile, save, bring this back. And now we should be golden. So let's go ahead and test everything, compile and save. So when we hit play, we should be able to go and press tab, go into our settings, change this to be off and click back. If we save changes and go back, it should be off. But let's say we do low, go back and don't apply, go back in, it should be on off. What if we reset and go back? It's saved. What if we go to medium, high, save and go back? It all works. So this is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like, and as always, happy developing.